I have a question for you. By a show of hands, who has their marketing and sales working together? It's not rhetorical, like, wow, this is overwhelming.
Is the question well or just working together?
Okay, well, let's start with working together as a base. Okay, so working together, okay, is turning into, okay, so this is increasing. Okay, in terms of going well, okay, the other room is going off. Okay, so not perfect, but it's a start. Tell me what your thoughts are on this statement. Branding without sales is cosmetic. I wish I could say it wasn't the case. A lot of my work that I do is brand development, brand building, marketing strats. But if we don't build that relationship with our client, with our customer, and critically get them over the line, our business is in trouble. Sales is oxygen. Who here runs a business without sales? Yeah, well, certainly not for long. Equally, sales without branding is unsupported. Try to sell or convince someone if you don't have that brand equity, that brand value. How easy is it to do? With difficulty. So, working hand in hand, you have growth. And this morning what I'd like to share with you is a flywheel, a model that brings in both brand and sales working together. And it's predicated on sharing, connecting, working together. It's communication that really makes it work, and a willingness to make it work. Remember, you're not at war with one another as departments and functions. So the first one, strategy. Ensure that your marketing and sales are communicating, and to agree on what is that thing that we are looking to achieve. Do you have that in place out of interest? Does your brand, your marketing and sales have clear goals? Do they both know what each other's goals are? And critically, are they the same in terms of sales? So 2 examples, it could be increase sales by 25%. Is that the focus that marketing is leaning in on? That sales is on the ground? What about building joint customer personas? Marketing is communicating one thing. Is that reflected in the sales capacity? Who are you seeing on the ground? So the first thing I would suggest is to build personas and break that down further into demographics. So demographics, we're looking at the study of human populations, right? Ensure that both marketing and sales are speaking the same language here. Who are we speaking to? What are those motivators? And that has the ability to transcend any physical characteristics that demographics focuses on. What's important to your audience? What are those drivers, those triggers? And critically, their buying behavior. When you should be communicating your messaging. And critically, how is that being received by your audience? And how is that being engaged by sales? Agreeing on the value proposition. What would happen if your value proposition that's being communicated by marketing is different to that of sales? I suppose I'll make it interesting, but not the good kind of interesting. What's said on the tin needs to be in the tin. So the idea that your shared strategy, which is the first element of this flywheel, is that sales are part of those marketing conversations. Critically, it's looking at your customer and problem. Is sales sharing with marketing what's happening on the ground? Often, marketing sits in isolation. Imagine the gold that could be shared by marketing from sales with marketing. So what is, or who is that customer? What is that problem? How is that solution being conveyed? So in terms of both your marketing and in your sales, you want to predicate the way in which you engage on why should I care? Because if we don't care about something, we're not going to pay attention, right? So by paying attention to things that we care about, we are then going to hold our audience's attention or higher probability. Off that, what is the solution that we provide? And it's critical that both departments are communicating the same thing. And critically, what differentiates and what are those proof points? Are you incorporating proof points into your marketing? Who does not know what I'm talking about? Okay, everyone does, or too scared to, sort of. So proof points in marketing and applies to sales as well is evidence that your brand, your product or service delivers on its promise. It could be customer testimonials. That could be written. It could be video. It could be the ratings, sentiment, etc. And it's really important to inculcate that into your marketing and at a sales level that other customers are having great experience. There's a quote by Martin Neumeyer, a globally renowned brand strategist, who says, it's not what you said is, it's what they said is. Not what you said is, it's what they said is. We can say that we're wonderful, but it's not going to carry water in the same weight that if someone else does. The perception that equity in their mind is lifted when someone else speaks highly of you. Map out the customer journey together. Have you thought about the customer journey that your client, customer or prospect goes through? They may hear about you, they might visit your website, they might engage with you on Zoom, they might meet with you over coffee, they might buy your product and test it. That basically is the customer journey. Take, for example, a restaurant. What's a restaurant that you enjoy visiting? Steers. Spur. Actually, Spur is where it's at. I've got two little girls and it's cranking, and yeah, I just hope it's really sterile, because otherwise. Anyway, Spur, Sarah, is a fantastic example of a brand that is consistent in its customer journey. From the location of the stores, to being greeted at the entrance, to where you're seated, the cutlery, the food, the play area, the music. Everyone claps when it's someone's birthday and they receive that free ice cream. Who here has actually opted for the free or got the free ice cream but it wasn't their birthday? It's a safe space. At least you're honest about it. Justin, that was brilliant. Okay, so at least 3-4 of us have schneid the system to get a free ice cream. It's clearly a safe space. What you want to do with both your marketing and sales team is map out what does that experience look like typically. And also from a marketing perspective is to listen to sales, to understand, well, how does your customer actually engage with the product or service? And vice versa, how does marketing, based on the research analysis, what does that journey look like? And critically, what you want to think about is each point of contact. So if we use the example of Spur, from the entrance to the food to the service, is saying something about the brand. We could promise the world in our marketing, but if we don't deliver across each of those touch points, it's not going to translate. And there's not going to be that sustainability for your brand or business. So take the time, work with sales and marketing, and visually plot out what are those pain and gain points along that journey. Your brand does not live in isolation. If that's one thing you take from the session today, your brand does not live in isolation. Develop a unified message or language. What are the words that you're using in your business? Out of interest, Durban Chamber, I think, are represented here today. What are some of the words that are used? Fab Mags, maybe if you'd like to share. What is the language that marketing is communicating and what is being shared with sales? Sorry? Absolutely. And has that lived in both marketing and sales? Okay, so you've got that commonality. Brilliant. Fab Mags, we were speaking earlier. Justin? And has that been literally word for word being shared in sales? And what is the consequence if the marketing language and sales is not saying the same, literally the same words? Misalignment.
Yeah.
If one is saying premium and the other one's saying cost effective, that's going to confuse your client and likely deter them from buying from you. A brand that I think is getting this right is Vida. Anyone buy from the brand? Buy the coffee? Okay, rapid expansion into Africa. There's a very clear strategy that is living through into the sales experience. When you order coffee and then you tip the barista, you get that warm welcome, right? Anyone feel awkward? You kind of just lean into it, right? The point is that brand consistency is lived throughout every store across Africa. Are you doing that with your brand? And that's a critical question to ask. Some questions to ask or to reflect on is, and this is not necessarily an easy one to answer, are sales and marketing in your company aiming at the same target? By show of hands, who feels that they are? Okay, 1.5 to 2.5, 3.5 people. Who's half? Oh, it was like a half hand. Okay, maybe that's a full hand, sorry. English is my mother tongue, apologies. This is really important. You cannot afford to have a disconnect between what marketing is doing and critically that of sales. Who exactly is your ideal customer? And that's why I put forward the importance of building those customer profiles or personas together, marketing and sales. And critically, do they agree on who we're wanting to speak to? Because that's going to influence the messaging, your value proposition, your channels, your call to action, your CTA. And thirdly, does your brand promise match what sales are saying on the ground? So we make a promise in our marketing, quite easy to do, but then on the ground, is that the case? So that's the first component in terms of the flywheel, is strategy. Execution. The first recommendation is to align calendars. You're more likely to work closer together. So some examples: share key dates around launches. Rather over-communicate throughout the year. What are the key launches, key events? How can marketing support sales and vice versa? Something that I think could really help is having some form of dashboard where marketing and sales can see data in real time or as close to real time as possible around what are our key markers of success. Again, it goes back to communication. The third, and I'd like to pose this as a question, is who here is in sales, that's on the ground engaging with customers? What are the typical marketing material that you're provided by marketing? What are the kinds of things that you use to support the engagement? Do you have brochures? Okay. Magazines would be, that's exactly probably your greatest example of that. It could be, yeah, so that is the product, it's the experience, so there's a service dimension. And it's to think about what would aid sales to help convey the brand and ensure that experience. So yes, the magazine would be, yeah, you actually can't get better than that. So it's really to think about getting insight from sales to say, well, this is what we need on the ground, and critically to listen and to apply what is of value. Offer ongoing training. Out of interest, how often are you receiving training in your company or providing it? Frequently? Weekly. Oh, wow. Okay, that is really impressive. What is the consequence of not having, maybe not at a weekly level, but not frequent? What happens if you're not up to date with the brand and the values and the identity? What is the cost to the brand? What is the cost to sales if you're not in the know around products, new features, launches? What would be some of the consequences to that? You're not going to get the sale. You're promising something in your marketing. Your brand is known for a particular thing, but sales doesn't know about that particular product that's been launched. Doesn't reflect well at all, and likely to lose the sale as a consequence. So by working together, there's a greater harmony, and translation as a consequence. And then this is a fifth point. Are you clear around the role of marketing, and critically to drive quality leads, and who takes on the baton in terms of those leads to convert? Are you clear in terms of the process? What do you think is a fair turnaround time? You receive a lead, there's an inquiry. Who's happy here to wait a month or a year? No. Probably a couple of hours, maybe a day, but we're just expecting that nowadays. So how are we engineering our teams to facilitate that turnaround? So who is responsible? What are the timelines, and what gets said and what gets shared? Please think about that. I've certainly seen that with clients, and it's part of the process that we do is we're generating leads. Who is then going to manage that and get those leads and convert it into sales? An example of this is Glue. Are you familiar with Glue? It's a sub-brand of PPS. And what I wanted to share with you is a quote, which, that's cool, it's now cut off. But basically, I love technology when you need it the most, and it's like, yeah. Essentially, Michelle Jennings, the CEO of Glue, and they're basically wanting to speak to PPS members or family members of PPS clients. So it's one tier lower, and I thought it was quite a strategic move that you are affiliated to PPS. It would give you the opportunity to be associated with the offering. The key takeout here is that in terms of financial planners or advisors, sharing that insight around what customers are saying with marketing and how you can nuance the product and offering. So 3 questions I'd like to pose to you. Do your sales teams have the same brand story as your marketing campaigns? Are you familiar with the brand story and particular stories that are being shared? So I think it's up to marketing to decide how many there are going to be, and that it's manageable enough for sales to be able to recall it. When was the last time that sales and marketing launched something together? You should see a commonality coming through around that collectiveness, working together. And then a question I'd like to ask sales is, do you track what content you're using, and critically, is that being shared with marketing? The magazine is the greatest product you could use in terms of fab mags. In terms of your business, what is that material that you're using and what's been discarded? Because if you're not using particular marketing material, you're wasting good money. And then the third aspect to share with you is around insight. What I'd like to suggest is to hold joint debriefs around or post product launches. What worked, what didn't? It'll be invaluable in terms of the strategy and moving forward. I did allude to this earlier. Align on shared metrics. What does success look like for both departments? And I must say, I did get excited when I saw some champagne here. Something I think we should do more of is celebrate joint wins. No offense to sales, and sales are important, but it's often sales that enjoys the success. And I think both parties have been involved in getting that customer over the line. The brand pull that marketing generates, but equally, it's also getting that sale through. So celebrate together. I'd also like to suggest is address pain points quickly. What is coming through on the ground? What are prospects, what are customers saying? Are there themes that we need to note and to address at a product and service level? And lastly, encourage innovation. Work together, brainstorm. It could be literally one idea that can turn things around positively. So key thing, collaborate. Thank you. That was a great point. I recognize that. You know who I think gets this right is Cape Union Mart. Anyone visited a Cape Union Mart before? Okay, I think we all have. Regardless of which store you go to across the country, as you walk in, you'll be recognized, you'll be greeted by a member of the sales team. Can I help you? And very simply, it's going to be a case of either you do need help or you're just browsing by yourself. They've acknowledged you. That's something we want. We may not want necessarily the service or to be assisted, but that we're recognized as a human. And if we do need help, well, by all means. It's actually quite overwhelming, the sheer number of products that are in that space. So to have some guidance if you need it. So some questions to ask you. What are your customers actually saying, and who hears it first? Where do you typically get your feedback from? Social media, comments on posts, reviews? Do you measure marketing and sales success on the same scorecard? And critically, how often do you celebrate wins across both teams and not separately? So in summary, brand without sales is cosmetic. We can create the most incredible brand, understand or build out the most wonderful story, know exactly who we need to speak to, have that value proposition in place. But if we don't have a sales component, the business will not grow. Equally, if sales does not have brand, that's going to be a very hard sell. What are you promising? What clout do you bring to that conversation without brand? Together, they build trust and growth. And that's predicated on that shared strategy and execution. And together with that feedback creates continuous improvement. So we have a few minutes. I don't know if there's any questions from my side that you'd like to ask. Sir.
You chatted about the handover from marketing to sales. What's your thinking about how marketing gets involved during execution? You know what I mean? Like what's your thinking?
So when you say execution, so the leads, okay, so here's a lead.
So now there is a client, like does marketing get involved or once the sale is?
I definitely think marketing has a place to be involved in all aspects of the business, but I do think there needs to be guardrails or parameters as to where marketing doesn't step on toes, but I think marketing needs to be inculcated in everything. Yeah. From pre-launch to launch, post-launch, what is the data that's been shared? So it should never escape. It should be front and center.
And should then say marketing be speaking to ops about how their information or how their
Absolutely.
emails are sent out?
I often see that. That's a fantastic question. I'm sure you've experienced something along these lines. Brand lives in every department of a company. If we take, for example, maybe a cliched example, but that of Coke. if you were to pick a Coke up from your local Spar, for example, there's an entire supply chain that has facilitated that. There's supply chain, there's operations, there's manufacturing. Marketing has promised the world, but if you don't deliver through the supply chain, you're in trouble. So brand lives in every department. It's the truck driver, it's the receptionist, it's the call center agents. It's every single touch point matters. So yeah, those are great questions. Perfect. Well, thank you everyone. Cheers.